Someone who's taking us all the way back in time to the late 1800s is going to be on the line. It is Harold the H.
Ark. Where were you?
I was there for the second and third one. Peacock, who is, of course, from history out there, always taking a look at local history. Good morning, Harold.
Yes, good morning, Sparky and Damo. Very exciting weekend, Australia Day weekend. It always is.
Yeah.
Even in 1885 in Ipswich, it was awesome.
Now,
It was so exciting.
this was a bit of an event, wasn't it?
Oh, look, that's right. It was on the afternoon of Saturday, the 24th of January, 1885. That's exactly 141 years ago today.
Right.
A large number of people assembled at the recreation ground in North Ipswich to witness two foot races. That's where the Ipswich Jets play these days. It was right there.
Yeah.
Now, the first race was between Charlie Linden and J.P. Leon for a £5 prize. The distance was 50 yards, and Leon received a 5-yard start. Now, the handicap was too much for Linden, and Leon won by about 4 feet. That's just over a metre. The second race was between Linden again, and this time John Barlow, again for £5, and triple the distance over 150 yards. And Barlow got a 15-yard start. Now, this time, Linden really sped up and overhauled his opponent a short distance from the end and won by about 2 feet. That's less than a metre. Now, this was pedestrianism, or professional running back then. And this was back when the sport and betting around it had really boomed. Now, Leon and Linden each won £5 that day, which was the equivalent of about 2 weeks' wages.
Wow.
Or more than $5,000 in today's money. And they were among the best athletes in Australian history. Now, let me tell you about it. Now, first of all, the Linden-Barlow match race, it was actually a rematch because on the previous weekend, Linden had, controversially or maybe disappointingly easily beaten Barlow at Peak Mountain. And Barlow was a local favourite. He won events such as the Harrisville Amateur Handicap over 150 yards. Barlow actually became the licensee of the commercial hotels in Ipswich and Rosewood, and also a horse stud owner.
Right.
But Ipswich's Linden, he was much more famous. His older brother became the New Zealand running champion. Linden himself, he remained in Ipswich and became a champion in his own right. Now, just think, this was professional running was huge. It was the biggest sport in Australia, and he was favourite in almost every race he entered. He was the back marker for the Lady Sheffield Handicap. He won Ipswich's All-Comers Jubilee Cup after starting off scratch. Linden was among the favourites and the best of Queenslanders at the Rich Botany Handicap down in Sydney in 1888. The prize money there totaled £800 and life-changing £500 going to the winner. That's more than $500,000 today. Now, in that race, he couldn't overcome his handicap, but the winner that year was actually Ipswich's Australian champion, Jim McGarrigle. So I might tell you more about him another time.
Right.
But back to those Ipswich races on the Australia Day weekend. Now, Linden won the second of the races, but it's the man who beat him in the first race, J.P. Leon, who was perhaps the greatest all-round athlete in Australian history. Now, J.P. Leon wasn't his real name. Now, you got to understand, aliases were common then in professional running because of the betting and amateur status rules. They wanted to win the money, but they wanted to remain amateur so they could compete everywhere. Now, he was actually a well-known Brisbane footballer and cricketer who ran under the assumed name whenever he came here to Ipswich. Now, no one here was ever going to reveal his true identity because he was actually one of their own and only recently moved to the capital, Brisbane. His real name was Ernest Hutton. Now, he was a handsome 6'2" fellow weighing about 13.5 stone in peak condition with a charming personality, and he was the most noted amateur athlete of his day. Now, I know if Danny was in the studio, he'd be claiming that was him in his day, but this guy's name is Ernest Hutton. Now, he attended Ipswich Grammar School where he cleaned up the sports competitions. He went to the Sydney University and was the best athlete there. He then went to Melbourne University and won the athletic championship there. Hutton was the champion tennis player of both Queensland and Victoria, represented both Queensland and New South Wales at rugby, and was named in the Queensland team of the 19th century for the Australian rules football. Now, Hutton also played first-class cricket for both Queensland and Victoria.
Right.
Now, when called out as a substitute, or he was called onto the field as a substitute against England one time, the English captain, W.G. Grace, actually objected to Hutton being on the field as a substitute. That's because he considered Hutton as the best outfield that he'd ever seen. So, look, contemporaries named him as the greatest all-round athlete that Australia would ever produce. Now, Ernest Hutton was from Ipswich, and he was one of those superstar athletes who ran on the North Ipswich Reserve over the Australia Day weekend exactly 141 years ago today. And wouldn't it have been just great to be there?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm enjoying Australia Day weekend, and especially on Monday, Australia Day, but gee, my mind does go back, loving the history and around Australia, and on that North Ipswich Reserve. It's
Well,
great.
there you go, mate. What we should do is get our West Bremer team, and we could recreate that race.
Yeah, look, and between the whole team, we've got the charming personality, the handsome, the weight, the height. Maybe not all the one person, but between the team, we could probably combine to.
Well, I know you're not talking about Dr. Dan when you're talking about the height.
No. Well,
Definitely talk
everyone
about
needs to
Damo
start.
about the way.
I did get
Every race needs to start.
I did get a message from Dr. Dan.
Oh, did you? He's listening.
Yes, he's listening from his beer can boat in the Bremer. He did send me a message, and basically he said, let me see, tight, bright, sincere, keep up the pace, doing good.
Oh, good.
There you go. So,
At least the report card's good.
well, that's right, exactly. Now, of course, how do we find out about this story, Harold?
Yeah, you can look for history out there on all the socials. That's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Or you can go to my website, historyouthere.com. And this story will be there tomorrow morning.
Fantastic. Historyouthere.com. Thanks, mate, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Happy Australia Day.
There
Happy
we go.
Australia Day. There you go. Harold Peacock will return next week right here as we wake up with Dr. Dan next week on West Bremer Radio. Back with more in a moment.